Radicals stormed drag queen story hour shouting to arrest groomers.
Do you know you just said wake up? I actually think you parents here need to wake up. This is child grooming what's taking place, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Every single parent in here should be ashamed of yourself for wokeism. It's disgusting. This is child grooming what's going on. Child grooming. Who knows what autogynephilia is? Who knows what autogynephilia is? Who knows what paedophiles are? Excuse me, what?
Everyone here has chosen. It's an adult entity.
No, listen, you're a child, you're allowing child grooming going place. Don't even think about touching me.
Reading Central Library in England recently celebrated their first drag story hour. Things began in a lighthearted manner as the organizer, drag queen Aida H Dee, had the children dancing and having fun. It was then that two women who were posing as attendees, one using her disabled son as an excuse to be there, began shouting, calling Aida a, quote, groomer, and accused the other parents of, quote, wokeism. The ladies were part of a group of right-wing radicals known as sovereign citizens who had other members outside waiting to harass the attendees. The disabled child can be heard screaming as one of the members of the group went to the back door to yell for the arrest of the drag queen. Aida, real name Sab Samuel, had to be escorted out of the library by the police for his own protection.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are allowing a paedophile sex worker to read to your children. You are sat in that room listening to a man who earns his living as a sex worker in nightclubs dressed as a woman telling dirty jokes. You are allowing him to read to your children. You are culpable for what is happening in that room. You should not be in there. You should not be allowing your children to suffer that. This is grooming, ladies and gentlemen. You are allowing your children to be groomed. They are grooming your children, and you are accepting it. You are part of the problem.
I cannot help but think, as I watched that, I saw the first video. I had not seen the second video until right now. I cannot help but think that that's what we're going to see at our house. That we're going to see this at Lips. We're going to see this at drag events all over the country, because they're learning that this is the way they can, in a minority point of view, because this is definitely an extremely small percentage minority, to take it to this point. It's like the Proud Boys thing in the California drag time story hour that was done. But this is growing, and I can't help but think we're going to watch this in many other places.
Well, you may have made reference to it already, because I couldn't remember where it was, but I remember seeing a news story about the Proud Boys trying to invade a drag show, something like
California.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, we're exporting hate. This is American behavior, and I don't want to laugh, but my God, hearing EastEnders shouting at drag queens, it's just funny, because it just sort of, for as an American, it sort of adds to a tone of absurdity to what is already hateful, yet still somewhat absurd.
You know, and I want to find the joke.
I know.
I do.
I
want to find the joke, but it's really hard to find the joke. And the reason is because that inane, ignorant woman inside and the exceptionally ignorant man on the outside, he is yelling, the drag queen Aida H Dee is a pedophile. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. It is black and white. Aida H Dee is not a pedophile. Flip Wilson, when he was doing his shtick in the 70s, was not a pedophile doing that. And that we even have to defend this argument is how ridiculous we are in our world. To both of them. One more second.
Yeah.
Then from pedophile, it jumps, of course, to sex worker.
Okay.
And the accusation is because he is doing drag, Mrs. Doubtfire is a sex worker. That's what he's doing. And where did he learn that? He learned doing that in watching President Trump go back to Washington on the January 6 hearings and yell hoax over and over again. The gaslighting lie is the best they can get out of their mouth and hope that that succeeds. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Hopefully it will not. But that's where they've learned this. And from a Governor DeSantis and from a press secretary of the governor of Florida who has said they're pedophiles and groomers. And this is how it trickles down through American society and, to your point, international.
Yeah, and you know, we were this last Sunday. We discussed Sunday brunch with Misty Eyes, and I don't know if we have the video, but I shot a lovely 15-minute thing. I'm entering it for an Emmy, but it's very innocuous. It's very boring almost. Sorry, Misty, I love you, but it wasn't anything radical. It wasn't anything over the top. It was just a lovely story time, and I encourage Governor DeSantis to log on. Oh, there it is. Yeah. I encourage Governor DeSantis to friend me on Facebook and check out the full video.
Yeah.
But the problem here is nothing is talking about facts. They're just words that are thrown out there. And we talked about this last week with Ricky Martin. You know, because you put it out there, someone's going to believe it's true. They don't show anything where the drag queen did anything offensive. It was a story time. And I think there's also a problem that we probably have in our own community as well, is distinguishing between a drag queen and a trans person. Because these guys are making it sound like every drag queen is not a performer. You know, they should have arrested Shakespeare because the men played the women roles. I mean, they're playing and acting a character. They're not lecturing people on their behavior and what their sexualization should be. And just as much, a trans person is not out there entertaining. And our community needs to also recognize the difference between those two things, because I don't think that in many ways they do.
The messenger creates the message. When Robin Williams did Mrs. Doubtfire, does anyone even remotely remember any connection of how inappropriate Mrs. Doubtfire was at the time that movie came out, in that it was inappropriate that that Robin Williams' character gets into drag to take care of his own children and then move to in a television station to be able to do stories for children and television programming. There was no controversy of it. We all loved what the story was, regardless of which political perspective we had, until people like Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis and Bud Abbott from Texas come in, Ted Cruz, et cetera, Marco Rubio come in and say, you shouldn't like this because they're sexualizing, they are pedophiles, they are sex workers. Robin Williams' character in Miss Doubtfire was none of those things. And Aida H Dee isn't either. But they've taken control of the messaging. And it's very hard to defeat Goliath.
And this whole terminology about, sexualizing children is a terrible accusation, because that could be made for any of us sitting around this table just because, we're gay men. Any of our friends who are drag queens. I can't tell you the amount of, drag queen friends I know that have done story hours in public school libraries, and they're doing something good. They're doing a public service and they're reading books to kids. Meanwhile, these are some of the same parents who are taking their kids to Hooters for their birthdays. And you know what they do? They put them on a pedestal, they blow up little balloons, and they put them under these little boys' shirts to, show that they have breasts. And that's okay?
Yeah. And for me, that is completely okay. I think that's fine. If the parents are acceptable, then they think that's acceptable, and Hooters as a brand feels like to whatever degree it's tasteful, then that's fine. It's not my place to wag my finger to say my voice, my opinion, my parental management of your children takes precedence of yours. I shouldn't do that. Yeah. I stay out of that.
But what makes one more okay than the other?
Well,
because we don't go out there and scream in front of Hooters, they're sexualizing the kids.
Exactly.
Those straight people are sexualizing their children.
Exactly. And by the way, if there's one place that perhaps might save us in the LGBTQ community, that's log cabin Republicans. And Glenn, tell us about what's going on.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.